Well, Chris, why don't we, it's 33 minutes after the hour. Chris and I are supposed to be doing these opening remarks to 10 after the hour. So I want to thank and welcome each of you for joining us for Leads Week. Very excited for the coming week. We've got, I think, a pretty cool lineup. The theme is about building strong individuals, building strong teams, building strong organization. And Leads Week itself is meant to invest in you as individuals and to provide time to really focus our efforts on some things, building some skills, expanding our base of knowledge, finding ways that we can connect with other IQers, and finding ways that we can really not only develop ourselves, but really enhance the experience that we have within our teams and within the broader company. So I'm very excited about this coming week. We've got some external speakers, we've got internal speakers. There's going to be moments that you're probably going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's cool. We can always just turn off the video and audio, which is the beauty of Zoom. But I strongly encourage you to take advantage of all the different sessions that we have this week. We're going to open up though with CK. And so I'm very excited. He's going to do some opening remarks. I'm going to do a little chat afterwards. I'll probably ask Chris some questions. If you have questions, you can use the chat at the bottom of the screen and I'll do the best I can to monitor that. But if I'm missing something, just unmute yourself and start shouting like a madman and I'll eventually respond. So without anything else that I can say at this moment, I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Have at it.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Scott, and welcome everybody. Happy Monday, happy election week, and happy Zoom week. I guess we gonna get no shortage of Zoom today or this week. So to start, we're going to have a short talk by neuroscientist Sam Harris, and so with that, let's all sit up straight, take a deep breath or a couple, and we will begin here shortly.
Just so everyone is aware, what Chris has got for us here is just a way for us to kind of calm our minds a little bit before we move into the focus of the material. There's so many things happening around us within the company, and so the idea here is just to get a chance to just kind of settle the mind a little bit before we move into some of the material.
In his Apology, Plato attributes the following now famous words to Socrates: "The unexamined life is not worth living." Now, whether or not that's strictly true, the unexamined life is certainly needlessly painful, both for oneself and for others. And painful or not, the unexamined life is certainly less interesting. We really spend our lives learning how to live. And this isn't necessarily as absurd or as tragic as it sounds. Most of us find a pattern of living that makes approximate sense, and we tinker with it for decades. If you're lucky, you'll discover that you can live more or less the way you want. But even if you're lucky, you'll find that it's possible to want the wrong things, to be lured into squandering your time and attention, to be bewitched in a way by things that don't really matter. Even if you're lucky, happiness can be surprisingly elusive. So why meditate? The basic logic is quite simple. The quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. Now, happiness and suffering, no matter how extreme, are mental events. The mind depends upon the body, of course, and the body upon the world, but everything good or bad that happens in your life must appear in consciousness to matter. Now, this fact offers ample opportunity to make the best of bad situations, because changing how you respond to the world is often as good as changing the world. Of course, you can try to change the world. You can try to get everyone around you to behave exactly as you want. You can try to never get sick or injured. You can try to keep your favorite possessions from getting damaged or lost. But try as hard as you might, the sources of stress and disappointment and embarrassment and self-doubt will always be there. Happily, there's another game to play, and not everyone knows about it. Rather than try to change the world in each moment, there is another move open to you. You can look more closely at what you're doing with your own mind and actually cease to respond to life in ways that produce needless suffering for yourself and those around you. When we're lost in thought, there are certain things we tend not to notice about the nature of our minds. For instance, every thought or feeling you've ever had, good or bad, has arisen and then passed away. The anger you felt yesterday or a year ago isn't here anymore, and if it arises in the next moment, based on your thinking about the past, it will once again pass away when you are no longer thinking about it. This is a profoundly important truth about the mind, and it can be absolutely liberating to understand it deeply. If you do understand it deeply, that is, if you're able to pay clear attention to the arising of an emotion like anger, rather than merely think about why you have every right to be angry, it actually becomes impossible to stay angry for more than a few moments at a time. If you think you can stay angry for a day, or even an hour, without continually manufacturing this emotion by thinking without knowing that you're thinking, you are mistaken. This is an objective claim about the mechanics of your own subjectivity, and I invite you to test it. And meditation is the tool you would use to test it. Now, while I can't promise that meditation will keep you from ever becoming angry again, you can learn not to stay angry, or fearful, or embarrassed, etc., for very long. And when talking about the consequences of negative emotions in the real world and in your life, the difference between moments and hours, or days and weeks, is impossible to exaggerate. Now, this is not to say that external circumstances don't matter, but it is your mind, rather than the circumstances themselves, that determines the quality of your life. Some people are content in the midst of real deprivation and danger, while others are miserable despite having all the luck in the world. And there are practices that allow us to break this habit of being lost in thought, and to simply become aware of our experience in the present moment. And the main one that I'm teaching in this course is a technique known as Vapasana, which is generally translated as insight meditation. And this comes from the oldest tradition of Buddhism, known as the Theravada. The quality of mind cultivated in Vipassana practice is almost always referred to as mindfulness. There's nothing spooky about mindfulness. It's simply a state of clear, non-judgmental, and undistracted attention to the contents of consciousness, whether pleasant or unpleasant. This practice has been shown to produce long-lasting changes in attention, emotion, cognition, and pain perception, and these correlate with both structural and functional changes in the brain. Mindfulness is now very much in vogue, of course, but it seems to me that there are still many misconceptions about it. It's often taught and marketed as though it were merely an improved version of an executive stress ball, where it is really more like the Large Hadron Collider. That is, it's a method for making profound discoveries, in this case about the nature of our own minds. And there's nothing passive about mindfulness. You could even say that it expresses a certain kind of passion, a passion for discerning what is subjectively real in each moment. Being mindful is not a matter of thinking more clearly about experience. It is the act of experiencing more clearly, including the arising of thoughts themselves. One of the great strengths of this technique of meditation, from a secular point of view, is that it doesn't require us to adopt any cultural affectations or unjustified beliefs. It simply demands that we pay close attention to the flow of our experience in each moment. So as you progress through this course, notice that what you're being asked to do, more and more, is to simply recognize what is already arising in consciousness in each moment, without modifying it, without grasping at what's pleasant or pushing what's unpleasant away. In some basic sense, meditation is the act of doing less than you normally do. It's the act of being less distracted in the midst of everything that is already happening on its own. And once one is less distracted, one finally has a tool with which to notice truths about one's mind that otherwise would never be discovered directly.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is actually the opening talk to Suzanne Harris's meditation practice, and he has a practice that I think I was introduced to almost a year ago, and I've been doing it almost every day, and it's been been great. The one quote I like is this: the quality of your mind determines the quality of your life, not your conditions. And I remember when I first heard that, it made me think of Viktor Frankl. I think some of you may recall his name. I've used a few quotes in our quote of the month from him. And he's a fascinating guy. His most famous work is Man's Search for Meaning. And some of you may recall, he lost everything, his whole family, his work, and he was in the death camps. He was in Auschwitz, and somehow he found meaning, and like in these terrible conditions, he found a way to break through and find purpose and meaning. And I thought, especially right now, we're in, really, really interesting times. I think when we zoom out and look at the state of the world, I think it's really, really important that we, take care of ourselves right now. Now, meditation is something that I've been trying to do. I'm a bit of an ADD kind of person, so it's been hard. I've been doing it for a couple of years. But I've been committed to do it, and it has been really, really helpful. A dear friend of mine, Manos Kafados, he's in his 70s, and he's a scientist, and I'm working on some projects with him. And I remember he came to visit me in Vancouver a couple of, like maybe 5 years ago. And I was asking him, I'm like, what can you share with me? He's had a pretty amazing life, written, many books on quantum mechanics and just a pretty whole person. And I said, can you tell me something like fundamentally that's changed your life? And he said meditation. So since then I've been trying to break through. So I've been practicing. And another thing I heard about meditation is this idea, and this came from the Dalai Lama. He said meditation is kind of like just hygiene, personal hygiene. It's like, how we brush our teeth to take care of our teeth. Meditation is like brushing the teeth of our mind. And it's like, that helped me, put it more into practice. And I think, right now, like with, especially all the technology we have, the endless scrolling, you can get into these feeds, and we're just like sort of being conditioned to consume. I think it's, I think, now more important than ever, leading ourselves is, and managing ourselves is important. I guess speaking of endless scrolling, I've a couple of weeks back, I just would catch myself, really, I'd have a break and I would go into certain social media. And I think, like a lot of us, there's a lot going on in the world. Pick your poison: COVID, politics, climate. I'd find myself, what's new? And so I deleted all of the social media news. I keep my messaging apps, so I did that. And I would like to share with you, it took a couple weeks, but it has had a shift. And then before that, I'd actually deleted Netflix and other things. And it really has helped. We're not, as human beings, we're not here just to consume. And it just seems, we're also here to create and to make things, and to also have space to think. And I think, I was just being overwhelmed by this. And I'm obviously very concerned, like we all are. So we want to know what's happening. We have this desire for clarity, for certainty. But, it didn't help. So I can say that taking that step was really, really profound for me. And they're going to stay off my phone. They're not coming back. And I also heard, I guess we're a tech company, and there's a thing called a firewall. I heard this first, this metaphorical example come from Harari, the author of Homo sapiens, Homo Deus. He's an historian, but he says, like, we can be hacked. And so part of my firewall is just to like delete this stuff and not have it available. Another interesting thing that relates to this too, that I was reading Darwin a while ago, and his theory of evolution. And one of the interesting observations that he had is that there's, he showed this very tight correlation between the environment and the evolution. And if you recall from my last talk in Lead Weeks, it really showed a very tight correlation between levels of human development and the personality of the individual and the attributes. So like the certain level was very much related, to the environment. But he also spoke about in experiments the idea that that he found that animals that could be, he called it domesticated evolution. He saw that, we could, if we change the environment, we can fundamentally change the animal as well. So it's like it really, I guess, we know our environment changes, but it was one of those aha moments where I just like another jump of perspective where, you can see how our environment shape us, right? And, if you're like, living in a poor area with a lot of crime, and, you're driving by McDonald's and like, that's all the food you have there is fast food, you can see how our environments really, really shape us. And it just made me reflect on, like what environment, what's in my home, what's in my mind. And then certainly at a company level, like what are we, our biggest environment that we have is our teams. And what does that environment look like? But, the science is really clear how over time, our environment really does shape who we are. There's a few people that can kind of, break out of that. But yeah, that's just been an interesting observation. So yeah, I think, in general, one of the things I've been reflecting on is just this idea of phase shift in science. Phase shift is like a transformation. It's a step function in, in science. So they observe that a lot of, structures, they go through these shifts. So the most, I guess, easiest example I've heard is like water. When you change the temperature of water, it, can either freeze or turn into the gas. But, that ice does not exist, or the liquid does not exist anymore. So one of the things, other than sort of just a change, like an evolutionary change can be a slight adaptation. With a phase shift, like a transformation, think of a caterpillar to a butterfly, or turning grapes into wine, there's an actual death. Something dies during that process. And so I think, collectively we're, there's a lot of signaling out there that, we are, in this sort of kind of collective phase shift. You can look to any category, certainly how we're living, our relationship to the earth, to the environment. Let's just go to the election. That's been an interesting observation to watch. You may have saw this in my notes. I have a few points of things that I thought I wanted to talk about. But Scott, I wanted to ask you, I hope that IQU is going to be better than Trump University. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
No comment. No comment. I really, well, I'm hoping that it lasts longer. So,
yeah, well,
when you think about the transformative states and the environment that we're in, and even if you think about the 3 different companies that we have and the different states that they're in, where you've got the exciting time of starting up and ready, the serious growth phase that COVID is going through, and how exciting that is, and then the mature business, a business that has grown into be quite substantial with iQmetrix. When you think about the importance of environments and the transformative states, how does that translate into kind of the current situations for each of those companies? What does that look like as we go forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, each company is at a different sort of state, right? And I think the harder, it's easier for a smaller company to transform. There's a natural agility. We hope that with self-management, as we really become get to the level where our teams are semi-autonomous, a larger company can behave like a smaller company. Now, of course, smaller companies are great because they can move quick, but at the same time, being small, they can't make as big of an impact. So, they will eventually grow, but this is probably one of the reasons why I really believe that self-management is, there's a lot of reasons for this. Is the future, because the world is changing quickly, and we are, the idea that we can just do something and keep it the same and just perfect that sameness, that is not our future. We are entering into a time of, accelerated change. If we just take a look at, the speed of processing, how it doubles, well, we're not looking at linear growth. We're looking at super linear growth. And, technology too is like, it's going to come in and disrupt us, right? So yeah, and I will say this though, I think change is, important for all organizations, especially, transformational change where something dies. And I do think that iQmetrix is sort of, in this crucible now where it's evolving and assessing and understanding and feeling, but will go through a transformational shift here. And so this is a fragile time. But yeah, when we look at phase shift, just the election coming up this week, it certainly has a lot of attention, but it's been interesting to see how things have changed. I look at 4 years ago in the state of democracy, and democracy is really, really, fragile. There's The Economist publishes this democracy index, and the U.S. has dropped down to like be a flawed democracy. But when you look at the global map and you look at authoritarian regimes and democracy, it's not a lot of countries, and the big one being the US. There's some good democracies in some smaller countries, but democracy is eroding, and it's how fragile, like the US seem to be functioning at a fairly reasonable level. There's certainly a lot of problems. It hasn't been evolving as it should be, but democracy. I just look at well, I guess when in 2008, I can see that Barack Obama, came in, and he, there was there was real leadership there. Being Leads Week, I think, we want to look at role models, and I think, I would say I saw good leadership here. There was, and similar, there was a SARS crisis. The US stepped up and led the world in managing that. They just took charge, and same with the 2008 crisis. So we're not seeing that now in the current leadership. And it's not a right or left thing, it's not Democrat or Republican, this idea or that idea. I think this is just like leadership does not distinguish between these two, and whatever side of the spectrum you're on, as we evolve and learn more, you come to realize that, it's not right or left, it's actually both. It's this is a polarity that we live. And so somebody, if you are evolving, you may start right or you may start left, but you get to the point where you understand that both of these polarities are necessary for proper governance. And but yeah, the fragility is really, interesting. And I was also in Israel about 5 years ago, or it was actually right before the election in 2016. And I went to the Holocaust Museum, and it was really interesting to walk. They show all of the events that led to the rise of Hitler. He was elected democratically. Fascism really breeds on discontent. So discontent, was something that it really pulled upon. So it's very interesting to see, you know, where his rise, and you know, interesting to see how quickly, you know, things can start to erode. But you know, enough on the election. You had a question, Scott?
Yeah, I was gonna shift a little bit because we've got we're allowed 10 minutes, but you and I always break the rule of how much time we're allowed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about yes, we have a high degree of uncertainty and complexity is accelerating, change is accelerating, and the needs that we have individually and then within teams and the company in general, or companies, sorry, in general, seem to involve this ability to continuously learn, adapt, and then have thoughtful evolution. But it requires us to manage that complexity where I've heard you tell this story about, you know, maintaining contradictory perspectives simultaneously and having to find a way to manage through that and holding that complexity and seeing an issue problem from multiple ways and then being able to take advantage of that. And I'm wondering if you could maybe just expand on that, because I think it's an important point that it would help set some context, not only for this week, but our current circumstances as a company, and where we want to go.
Yeah, sure. Actually, that came up in a Ready strategic meeting a little while ago. So we were having a strategy meeting, and there was a tension that was raised about one of the values. So one of the values of Ready is humble confidence, and you can see these are kind of opposing ideas, right? Are you humble or are you confident? You know, which one are you? And she brought this up, and it was a proper you know, there was a tension there. She's like, you know, like, why can't we just be confident? You know, we need to, like, we should be proud of who we are and what we're doing. And so it led to a really great discussion as to why this value or what it means. So it was a very useful discussion because this individual wasn't in during the creation of this. So in doing this, we strengthen that truth, we strengthen that value, and we strengthen that understanding. But this value does actually epitomize what is associated with higher tiers of human development, you know, like teal. So one of the aspects, and this is a common thread amongst all human development models, is that you are able to hold contradictory truths in unity at the same time. And so we went through, and she had you know, there was a tension in the sense that we could speak out more. Maybe we weren't, you know, if there's humble and there's confidence, maybe we were being too much towards the humble side. So our execution of that value may have been a bit off. So I was thinking, yeah, that's a really, really good point. But we came, but it ended up, we ended up having a great conversation. And, you know, that's part of what the strategy meetings are for, is to strengthen, you know, the understanding of, you know, your purpose, your values, your principles, your aims. And so tensions can really lead to that. And it also made me think of a great model from Aristotle in the Nicomachean Ethics. He talks about how every virtue has a vice. And so he used an example of a lion tamer. And he said, you know, like, would you go in a cage with a lion? Like, if you had no knowledge of lion, of course you wouldn't go. And so to do something without the knowledge is to be rash. And so that's to, like, so if you think of courage, you know, you can have too much courage, right? Or if you think of too little, is like to be a coward, and then you risk not doing anything. So everything sits within this polarity that's informed by our experience and informed by our wisdom. How much time do we have, Scott, by the way? What's the...
We have 5 minutes.
And don't you have to do some comments too?
Yeah, I've got comments, but I've got one last thing for you, and then we'll transition to me.
Yeah, I want to say a few other quick things too then.
Yeah, you mentioned the dialogue that took place. I mean, I think it's fantastic. A person raised, hey, I've got a tension here, I've got a concern, I've got an idea I want to debate, discuss. And within self-management environment, but within just kind of the history of how we wanted a company to be, about the importance of the debate of ideas and dialogue, and your inspiration around that, where, you know, you've been a huge fan of the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato was a trigger for you. And I'm just wondering if you can expand a little bit on your ideas and the importance of the dialogue and the debate of the idea, and then we can kind of transition from there. So if you could kind of use that as a launch pad from your own personal experiences and inspiration to what it means within the company of the type of culture that we want to have.
Yeah.
Cool question.
It's a small question. While you're describing that, I just thought of one of my favorite quotes: "The unexamined life isn't worth living." And that talk started with that. I'm actually going to be covering quite a lot of that in the decision making. I think I'm going to be covering an ontology of what that looks like in the decision making talk tomorrow. So why don't we hold that question till tomorrow,
okay. Cool.
If that's okay. And I want to share a few more quick reflections, so I'll talk a little bit faster. But I think we'll skip talking about COVID. I do think COVID. Well, briefly, COVID. There is uncertainty there, and there's information saying that this could be endemic. So there's no guarantee that this can finish. So we are really coming in at like many different degrees. The level of uncertainty is certainly getting greater. But if we look for us in business, I think there's there has been a shift in behaviors. And this is really going to open up the business landscape, and we're going to see a shift in businesses. Businesses are going to be more ready to disrupt. I think consumers are wanting to be empowered. This idea of the Uberification of everything, and for us, in certainly iQmetrix is digital retail. There's going to be, I think all kinds of opportunities. So we are certainly in a really good place, to take advantage of the of the coming changes. And I guess maybe before I pass it over, I'll just leave you with this point. I think leaders often desire to seek certainty, especially in difficult times. And when we do that, we're at risk of seeing, the whole truth. And because the whole truth is always more complex. So I think the real message right now is I think we need to be comfortable with uncertainty, and just and I know that can be easy or it can be difficult, but that's something I've been really feeling lately. So Scott, I'll pass it over to you now.
That's Chris is not, a lot of you may find this strange. I actually have notes. And for those of you that have heard me speak, this is one of the times I'm going to use my notes. I'm going to try and stay on script. So, Chris hasn't seen my notes, and it was a great transition to, why Leads Week, and why leadership is something to focus on. And I can't help but think, I was humbly reminded of the importance of leadership last week. We're just I was right in the middle of a scenario where, mistakes are being made, not functioning in a way we want. It's a whole bunch of good people trying to do the right things, but there's just a breakdown in how we're functioning. And it goes to some of the core elements related to leadership. And as I was reflecting on this, I realized, something that I've always known all along, but it's odd how you have to keep relearning some things. And that good leaders start with themselves, and they own their shit, and they really focus on, once they figured out, what they should own and how they own it, they really then set on a path to work together to solve it, that they're not trying to do it by themselves, but they look for ways that there can be the collaboration. And it was just, as I was thinking about it, it's like leadership really matters because organizations are filled with people, and people are complex. People have so much that they're bringing into the conversation. And we have stories that we tell ourselves, and some are good and some aren't so good. And so as we lead teams, that complexity, not just the fact that we're in uncertain, complex times, but it's people, and people are complex, and they change and they shift, and the vast majority of people want to do the right things, but it's only through kind of the effective leadership piece that we can really move forward and have effective change. And if you think about how we want to be with a self-managing company, where we're really functioning in a way where people can be and have their own autonomy and can pursue areas of interest and make those positive things. Leadership is absolutely critical in the self-managing environment. Leadership is essential to helping establish the safety, trust, clarity, and openness. And then when those things break down, because they will break down, it's guaranteed they will break down. It's putting the effort into it in order to have the right environment that Chris talked about that gets things back to a healthy, functional way. And I was also reminded, you never stop learning about leadership. You may know a lot, but you never stop learning. I am now officially in the cranky old guy category, and I've been doing this for a long time. And it's humbling to just have to examine the basics that you've screwed up on and figure out, okay, let's just dust ourselves off and we're going to get this right. What was interesting to me is that I was thinking about how leadership is defined, and this one definition that I looked up, and it said, the action of leading a group of people or an organization. And I stared at that and I thought, what kind of freaking definition is that? What do you do with that? Oh, you're leading a group of people. What does that even mean? So as I was thinking about this, I was like, so you're getting my perspective on what good leadership looks like in action. And this is not the exhaustive, definitive right answer. It's just an answer from my point of view. And I believe good leadership in action starts with self-awareness. It's knowing yourself. It's knowing how you react in certain situations. It's knowing what matters to you. It's knowing your values. It's understanding how you see your skill sets and where you want to be. I can't emphasize enough the importance of self-awareness, how you act in good times, how you act in bad times. I think good leadership draws and leans on humility. Is that it's the moment your ego gets too big, is the moment when you're setting yourself up for the big crash. Humility is something that I think effective leaders just always lean on and recognize. And then the next one is that I think good leadership in action the person is drawing from wanting to serve others. It's that servant leadership attitude that you were there to support the team, support the people around you. It's not about you. It's about the others around you. And then this is the part where I think takes wisdom and experience, and is one I've constantly have struggled to get right. It's knowing when to take action. And sometimes the best leader is pausing, and the other time it's like, no, you got to get right in the middle of that. And so it's complex, and it's very complex. But I think about self-awareness, knowing yourself is so critical, and that's why we've got sessions this week that's going to help you focus on that. Remember about the humility and wanting to serve others, but recognize there are times you need to take action, and it's only through practice and experience of making mistakes, but also learning from them, that you start to develop that. So leadership is not a position in a hierarchy. All of us, whether you're a team lead or not, all of us will be leading at different times in different ways. The story that Chris told about asking the question or the attention about the humble confidence, that's leadership. That is having the courage to raise something and point to it and say, gee, I'm not sure I really agree with this. That's leadership. And we do it, and we become better when people have the courage to do that. And so it's not about a position. It's actually about taking the steps and the effort to help serve others and make where we are better. To me, leadership is the glue of the team. It's the role that's focused on the health of the team. It's ensuring everyone has a voice and where the team is going and why we're going to that particular mission and goal. Strategy is not one person coming down from the mountain with tablets. Strategy is an iterative, collective effort through dialogue that gets us to a spot where we can determine where do we want to head to. And that the leader's role is that glue to ensure that everyone has a voice. Doesn't mean we're going to do what everybody says, but rather it's the dialogue that makes us better. So leadership is not about just making everyone better. It involves that, but leadership is more about nurturing the environment so that everyone can be their best. It's the leader's responsibility on that environment, that safety, trust, openness. Very difficult to do, always difficult to maintain. But that is leadership, about setting the agenda of how we want to function. So why have Leads Week? All of us have some leadership responsibility in big and small ways. For those of you that are in team lead roles, I got good news for you. I got bad news for you. The bad news is it's the most complicated role you'll ever have. The good news is that you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people that want to see you be successful. The team lead role is where is at the level of where the company where the work gets done. And when we have effective team leads, teams are functioning, will typically be functioning at a high level, and that then they can fulfill what they're trying to do for their mission and fulfill their goals. And the thing is, why have Leads Week? We are never done learning about leadership, because leadership is about people, it's about you, it's about others, and that is complex. So this week is designed around building strong individuals, strong teams, and a strong organization. The content will lead you through building some interpersonal skills that you can use in all areas of your life. And it also should give you some practical tools that you can use within your teams. So with that, I'd like you to set a goal for yourself this week. Please be present and engage. I'm a person who likes to shy away and hide in the background, but please be there and be engaged. Challenge yourself, get a bit uncomfortable, see the humor in things. We have a phenomenal workbook that was designed by the presenters with Jackie overseeing that whole thing. We've got a great workbook. Use the workbook. Write down your notes and thoughts and perspectives and draw on them later on. Meet colleagues you haven't seen for a while, or new colleagues. We've got new people starting. I can't imagine what this must be like for new people in a pandemic, joining a company where you don't actually get to see people in an office. Everything is over this two-dimensional Zoom. So I encourage each of you to meet our new colleagues and take time to chat with people that we may not have seen in some time. So as always, please make sure you have some fun. Let's challenge ourselves. The last thing I'll say before I give Chris another chance to say something is that there are some housekeeping things here. Join the Slack channel at #leads-event in Slack. The discussion room during the break, we have Zoom rooms open during the break time if you'd like to chat with other attendees during that 30 minutes. So grab a coffee and talk with your colleagues. The session surveys, please make sure you fill out the session surveys. I can't tell you how important these are. We pore over the session surveys. We read everything. We value the time you take to fill those in. So please do that. The feedback is crucial to our future planning. Your name is entered. Oh, here's a really important thing. I have, by the way, followed my notes, first time ever, is that there's a $50 prize, an Amazon gift card, or a donation to the United Way learning programs. We'll be drawing for winners after every single session, including this one. So if you need anything, you can post in the Slack channel, or you can reach out to Aaron McClellan, who's our producer of this event and has done a phenomenal job and has been working a crazy amount of hours and still has a crazy amount of hours this week. So I'm excited about this week. I am really hoping that there'll be a lot of meaningful content for you guys, and it'll have a positive impact for you. So I don't have anything else. Chris, any last comments before we free people up?
Yeah, one more comment. This came up while you're talking for me. So when I finished school, I somehow stumbled across Plato, and I was reading this stuff, and I was just like these explosions were going off in my mind, and it really, I was just learning, and I felt, in school, I just wasn't having that experience. So it really, I think, set the stage for this idea of lifelong learning. And I think, when you see young kids, like they're just sponges, they just learn. And then, we go to school, and I think there's this idea that when we're done school, we're done learning. And that is just not the case. And, especially, now I can't preface this circumstance that we're in. Like, now more than ever, learning is just being open to new information, sense, adapt. It's more important than ever. And so I'm just so happy we're doing this. I think it's really, really important. So thanks, Scott and the IQU team for putting this together, and have a fantastic week, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. The leadership panel is up next. So I encourage everyone sign into that, and have a great day. Talk to you later. See you guys.
Thanks.